Hi, welcome back to Realism Unlocked. Yesterday we learned about how values bring realism to your artwork, and today is day 2 where we are going to learn about edges. And this is the beautiful drawing that we are going to do today and learn about how the hard edges, soft edges, and lost and found edges play a crucial role in bringing depth and realism to your artwork. Let's get started.
I'm using a A5 size sheet and I'm applying masking tape on all four sides. I'm using a hardboard for support. Let's begin with the drawing. First, I'll draw this portion of the flower. I'm using a 2H pencil, so the lines are very light. Now I'm drawing the petals. I have pinned the line diagram on the bottom right corner. You could also download the reference image from the companion email that comes with this challenge. The link to sign up for the companion emails is given in the description box. Now I'm drawing the inner petals, which are short in length. And there is a third petal which is behind. Now I'm drawing the leaf. Keep your line markings very gentle and with minimal pressure. It's a knife shaped leaf. And I'm also drawing this stick. With very gentle pressure. Now I'm drawing the stem. And I'm also drawing the ladybird. Now I'm drawing the head portion of the ladybug and 3 circles on its body. I'm refining the shape of the petal. Let's begin applying charcoal. Now I'm taking a bigger brush with little amount of charcoal on it and lightly applying it in circular motion on the bottom corner of the paper. You could see in the reference image how the background has a very gradient blend. Keep the pressure minimal and apply from lightest tone. Don't go too dark too fast. Gradually build the darkness. I have taken little more amount of charcoal onto the brush and applying it gently around the petals. Don't work on the petals, just go around it, even on the top portion, with very gentle pressure and in circular motion. Keep blending it for smooth transition. Now I have taken a softer brush and little amount of charcoal on it and blending it in the corner to add a layer of darker tone. And I'm blending it gently with the lighter tone of the background. This creates a very soft background. and I'm carefully blending in the background. Now I have taken a clean white brush and blending it gently. I'm taking a soft brush again with a little amount of charcoal and blending it in the bottom right corner where there is a darker tone in the background. And I'm merging it with the lighter tone in the background using the same brush. Now I'm taking a small flat synthetic brush to create the soft edge for the leaf. If you observe the reference image, you could see that the leaf in the if you observe the reference image, you could see that the edges of the leaf is soft, which means it's blurred and is merging with the background. In such cases, I usually use a soft brush to achieve that soft edges. Now I'll also create the other edge of this leaf with the same brush and a little bit of charcoal. I'm lightly blending it. Now we have the soft outline ready. I have taken a size 2 brush which is having hard bristles, and I have taken a little bit of charcoal dust onto this brush and I'm blending on the inner side of this leaf. Go in circular motion and apply the charcoal dust on the inner surface. And blend it to get a soft transition towards the lighter tone that is in the center of the leaf. I'm again switching back to flat brush to correct the edges. Now I'm using the flat brush to draw the stick that connects the leaf with the flower. Make sure the line is very thin. And slowly connect it with the flower. Now I'm using a hard bristle brush and I'm applying the darker area onto the stem. Observe how the edges are very soft, and I'm blending it in circular motion to achieve that soft edges. Soft edges suggest that the subject is away from focus. All the objects that are away from the main focus will have soft edge. It also creates a sense of depth. I'm doing the second stem that has this soft edge. And now the third one. With a little bit of charcoal dust on my brush, I'm blending it onto the paper and lightly creating that softer edge in the background. Now I'm using a soft brush with little charcoal and creating a darker tone in the background that creates a separation of these stems from the background. Now the stems appear lighter compared to the background tone. So that's why I'm adding a darker tone to the background. You could also observe how I'm leaving a small white strip between the stem and the background to give three-dimensional look to the stem. Because the stems are in cylindrical shape, so one side where the light hits will have lighter tone. On the other side, the shadow will be there, which is a darker tone. I'm lightly blending the stem where the darker tone is and also darkening the background. Now coming to this side, again here I'm darkening the background a little bit, and I have also left a small white gap between the dark tone of the stem and the background. Whenever I need very light pressure, I go for softer brushes. Now I'm using a hard bristle brush to blend the dark tone in the background. And I'm slowly merging that darker tone into the background to give that nice gradation. And in smaller areas, I'm using a smaller brush. I'm creating a sense of shadow here to show that the stems are overlapping. Now I'm using a clean white brush to blend everything together to make it more and more softer. Using a clean white brush to blend things will make it very soft. Now I'm using a flat synthetic brush to add a strip of dark line where the stem is closer towards the focus. And I'm gently blending it into the soft edge of the stem. And gently blending it into the soft edge. Now I'm using a bigger brush to blend everything together. And I'm lightly darkening the other stem. Now I'm using a flat synthetic brush to add darker tone here. And I'm slowly blending that with the same brush. Now I'm using a medium grade pencil. You could use a regular charcoal pencil for this and add some lines on the sepal. And I'm also drawing the shadow part of it and the corners. Make sure the tip of your pencil is sharp while drawing these regions. I'm using a round synthetic brush and a hard bristle brush to blend everything. Make sure the blending doesn't go outside the boundary of the sepal. Again, I'm using a flat synthetic brush and blending from the corner where the tone is little darker compared to the center of the sepal. And doing the same thing on the other side. And gently blending it towards the center. And using a bigger hard bristle brush of size 2 and blending it into the center. Again switching back to the flat brush. Now I'm correcting the tones where it is required. And again using a pencil to draw those lines. And a brush to blend everything together. Never leave your pencil marks on the charcoal drawing as it is. Just blend them with the brush to get everything in a smooth rendering. Now I'm using a pencil eraser to erase the blend that has entered inside the petal. We want absolutely white petal, so let's erase all the charcoal that has entered inside the petals while we were blending the background or the leaf and the stem. So wherever you could see a little bit of charcoal entered inside the petal, just erase it and make sure the edges are crisp. So now we are getting into the hard edges. So until now we were creating all the soft edges, and the petals and the ladybug are the main focus of this reference image, where they are in complete focus and the edges of them are hard. So always the hard edges suggest that the subject is closer to focus. A combination of hard and soft edges bring in that depth in your artwork and gives it a realistic feeling. So that's why edges are very important in realistic artwork. Now I'm using a small regular white eraser to erase the inner portion of the petals to get that bright white highlight. Just erase only on the petal area. Don't go outside the boundary of the petal. get rid of all the dust. Now I'm using a kneadable eraser to pick up all the dust that got created from the normal white eraser. And I'm using the pencil eraser for a little highlight on that. And a flat brush for adding the shadow to give it a three-dimensional look. Now I'm using a hard charcoal pencil for drawing all the details of the ladybug. Whenever you are drawing any details, always refer your reference image and observe how all the details are there in the photo. Now I'm using a medium pencil and drawing that dark outline on the ladybug's body. And using a flat brush with little bit of charcoal dust and blending it into the inner side of its wings. Same thing on the back side. And gently blending it towards the center now. I'm leaving a very thin line of gap and then drawing the second wing and applying the charcoal there and then blending it towards the center. You could find this minute difference in your reference image as well. So such minor details add a lot of reality to your artwork. Now with the help of a small brush, I'm adding darker tones to the ladybug's body. On the bottom side we have darker tones and on the upper side we have lighter tones where the light hits on its wings. And I'm blending it together. And then slowly blending the lower portion. Now I'm taking a smaller brush and adding a little bit of darker tone. And blending all the pencil marks that we did earlier, the charcoal pencil marks that we did on the insect's body. Now I'm taking a medium charcoal pencil and I'm giving those minor details on its body and then taking a clean white brush and blending everything together. And I'm taking the battery eraser and adding the highlight on its wings and taking the hard pencil again and drawing the black dots on its wings. And using a small brush, I'm blending that as well. And I'm using a eraser pencil for sharp highlights on its wings and on the lower portion of its wings. Now I'm using a flat synthetic brush to add the shadow on the petal where the ladybug is sitting on the petal. I took a very small amount of charcoal dust to add a darker shadow, and then a white brush for blending it well. Now I'm taking the hard charcoal pencil and I'm marking this line where the petal is overlapping with the petal on the inside. Now I'm adding details to the ladybug's body using a hard charcoal pencil. I'm drawing its legs now. Sharpen your pencils well to add these tiny details, and always use a hard pencil for such minute yet dark details. So I'm done with the legs. Now I'm using a flat brush to gently blend that pencil mark which we did, and also blending onto that shadow. Now that overlap of petals that we tried to create, I'm using a flat synthetic brush and adding that shadow part. Just a thin line of mid-tone. And then I'm using the same brush for adding that overlapping shadow onto the other petal as well. Now I'm creating that pattern on the inner petal. It's a small texture like pattern, and there are very light minute lines on this petal. And to add those minute lines, I'm using the stained flat synthetic brush, and with very light pressure I'm adding those lines, and I'm also adding a shadow line for the upper petal. And I'm blending below the sepal to add that shadow. And I'm erasing the highlight for the third petal which is overlapped, and darkening the edge of this petals, basically the boundary or the background, so that the petals pops up. And using a hard bristle brush, I'm blending it with the background. I'm lightening that third petal little bit and using a white brush, and I'm blending it. Just correcting the value using a smaller brush, and again blending it with a white brush. Since this petal is on the back side, it is having a little darker tone compared to the petals on the top. And now I'm using a pencil eraser to crispen the lines that we drew on the inner petal. You could observe these minor details in the reference image. Also, I'm using a kneadable eraser with a pointed tip to pick up some highlights. Now I'm using a flat brush to add those tiny shadow-like region on the upper petal. This makes the petal look three-dimensional instead of looking flat white. And using a white bristle brush to blend it. Similarly, we have a curved shadow on the tip of the petal. And then blending it with a white brush. Again, darkening it wherever required. Same thing on the other side of the petal. And for this petal too. Just a smaller shadow-like value here. And in the area where the petal curves, and I'm using a small brush to add the missing details on the leaf, and then I blended that, and I'm darkening this stick little bit. And I'm adding a little highlight with an eraser pencil. Now we are peeling off the tape, and our artwork is finally done. And you can see how the combination of hard and soft edges are bringing that depth.
So with that, we come to the end of day 2 tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed creating this beautiful artwork along with me. See you in day 3 tutorial.